So I've been running 33s, I've been thinking about it, and I think I'm ready to commit. I think I'm ready to run 35s, but I'm curious, should I run 35s? Who are the folks that should think about running 35s on their Tacoma?
So a 35-inch tire is awesome. Everyone loves a 35-inch tire. It's seemingly becoming the new 33, or the cool factor of the tire world. Most people who are going to need a 35 is someone who's using their truck on some pretty intense trails. They need the extra ground clearance. They don't really care about gas mileage. They are fine with modifying their Tacoma to a degree where it might not ride as great on the street, but they want it more for off-road performance.
Got it. So essentially I'm picturing the person that is like, I'm in it. I'm going to change everything about the truck because I'm looking to run this tire size. And basically, if you run a 35, you are going to be very heavily biased towards off-roading, and you're not going to be wanting to necessarily use that as much as like a daily driver. Sure, it would work as a daily driver, but it's not going to give you the same performance as a stock tire or a 33, right?
No, absolutely not. It's going to be fine on the road. You just have to get used to some of the nuances of running a big tire on a small truck.
And speaking of some of those nuances, before we touch on the next topic, when you start running a 35 on your Tacoma, let's talk gas mileage really fast. What typically happens with the gas mileage? How much MPG do you actually go down? Like obviously we're not gonna be specific because every Tacoma is different with how much weight, how much mods are on it, but what's like a general ballpark that somebody can expect when they go 35s, if they wanna use it also as their daily driver, the hit that they're gonna take on MPGs?
Yeah, so if you're gonna run 35s on stock gears, which we don't recommend, you're gonna lose anywhere from 2 to 5 miles per gallon, especially here in Colorado. If you're going up the pass, just to move that weight, you're gonna be floored all the time.
So if you're thinking about running 35s, you're obviously very invested in the off-road space. But realistically, how do you fit 35s in your Tacoma? Because whenever I look around online, I see just what would be considered a clusterfuck of information of everybody who has their opinion on what you need to change or what you can get away with not changing. What realistically do you need to tweak with your Tacoma to run a 35 to get the most out of that tire?
Yeah, so first of all, you obviously need a lift, 3-inch lift for sure. You're gonna need a body mount relocate, which is more than a chop. It involves actually chopping off the whole factory body mount, and we weld on a new body mount that is further back and a lot smaller, so you get a ton of clearance in that fender well. You're also gonna need a full fender trim. Cuts off about 1.25 inches all the way around the fender. That way your big 35-inch tire now doesn't smash into your fender and just rip it off. You're also gonna need a re-gear. Now, this is a pretty hot topic, pretty controversial, but in our opinion, if you're running a 35-inch tire and you're not re-geared, you're not getting the full potential of that 35-inch tire.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost like a non-negotiable, especially if you're gonna have body armor and everything else and all the weight, because like here in Colorado, man, I have my pedal to the metal and I'm not re-geared and I'm running a smaller tire size, like if I'm going up any pass, so I can't imagine not. So I think one of the most untalked about topics on forums, or probably just too much and just too much of a nuance in between a consistent answer, is when you want to go up to 35s, you're gonna have to change a lot about the truck. How much are you going to probably go financially in the hole to run 35s? Because I think a lot of folks think that running 35s is cool, but then they underestimate how much you actually need to put forth to run that tire size, because you need to do a lot more to the truck than just slap some bigger tires on it, add a little bit of a lift.
Yeah, totally. So a 3-inch lift, kind of the best bang for your buck is a Bilstein 6112, 5160. That's what you have on your truck. That lift kit with upper control arms and leaf springs runs roughly $3,800 to $4,000 for the lift kit installed with labor. So that's the start. You're obviously going to need to buy tires and wheels. You know that already. The next thing you're going to do is the re-gear, like we talked about earlier. A re-gear is roughly $3,800 parts and labor. The third thing you're going to need that we talked about is the relocate. A relocate typically runs around $1,100 to $1,200 parts and labor.
So you're gonna be at least in the hole another, probably like close to 7-10 grand on top of the tires and wheels that you also need to buy.
Yeah, 7 to 10 grand is a good sweet spot for all the stuff you need to run a 35.
All right, so the pros and cons of running a 35. I feel like there's gonna be a lot more nuance to this topic compared to a 33, and I am sure folks in the comment section are gonna have a lot of fucking opinions on this. So some pros of running a 35, let's go.
Yeah, so pros are obviously off-road performance. You get a lot more clearance, you get a lot more rollover. So if a rock is, say, this big, it's going to be easier for that tire to roll over it. Then there's the cool factor, right? Everyone kind of seems to want to run a 35-inch tire nowadays. People are kind of shying away from that 33 for a cool factor.
So off-road performance and the cool factor, some of the pros. What are some cons that come along with running a 35, realistically?
Yeah, so some cons are on-road drivability is going to go down a little bit. You have a bigger tire, so it's going to drive differently on the street. It's going to grab more of the road lines, which is good off-road because you have more grip. You're going to have worse gas mileage, especially if you don't do a re-gear. Even with a re-gear, you're going to lose 1 to 2 MPGs. And the final con to running a 35 is it's just a lot more expensive. The tires are more expensive because they're bigger, obviously.
And quick question for you to add to that is, let's say I've gone up to a 35 and I've done all of the work required on the truck to get my truck to have the fitment for a 35. If I want to go down to a 33, is there anything I should actually consider or think about?
Going from a 35 to a 33?
Yeah, like once you go there, can you go back and realistically do so and get a lot out of the truck, or what are some things to consider before somebody necessarily pulls a trigger to a 35? Because I think a 35 tire on a Tacoma is one of those changes to the truck that you can't really get back, especially when it comes to like the relocate and whatnot.
The benefit of that is you can go back to a 33. You would just probably want to lower the lift a little bit because it'll look a little goofy, but certainly don't lose any performance. All of the modifications you're going to do to run a 35-inch tire are certainly capable of fitting a 33 on there, and you'll have a ton of space, which is actually great for off-road. So.
But hopefully this video was able to answer some of your questions that you might have had on this topic. But obviously, if you have additional questions, drop a comment down below or reach out to us on Instagram. We will gladly hit you back and answer whatever you have because, again, this is a big commitment. But as always, y'all, drop a like on the video, drop subscribe to the channel. We will see you in the next one.